Hi everyone, happy new moon in Pisces, happy Pisces season, the sun is in Pisces, and happy last day of Venus in Pisces in tropical astrology. But Venus is still in Pisces in sidereal astrology until the 11th of March. So today we're going to look at Pluto and Aquarius, and this video is based on a post I did on Tumblr, and I noticed that so many people were interested in that particular post I made, and not just only there, even in my personal life, like people are interested in Pluto and Aquarius. But that post on Tumblr is what brought me here, and then I also posted it on my Pinterest, and I know that people are actually interested in that, and now I want to make this video. This video is going to be a bit different from that because I'm going to put in a little bit more detail than what's in the Tumblr post and what's on Pinterest. And I am Michelle. I am an astrologer and psychologist who focuses on mindfulness. So let's get into it. But first, before we get into it, I want to talk about my paid resources. I have a lot of free resources because I believe that if somebody is unable to purchase my services, they should also have the privilege of accessing free information that's actually going to help them. And that's why I make free posts like Pluto and Aquarius, perfection years, human design. You can just find everything I do about astrology on my Tumblr, on my Instagram, on my Pinterest, literally everywhere. If you just search It's Me Anyango anywhere on the internet. So in the description box below, you can also book therapy with me. I have 1 hour 45 minutes to 1 hour therapy 45 minutes to 1 hour therapy sessions, which are $10 each, or you can just book a full month of therapy, which is going to be $40. That's 4 sessions in a month. That means for 4 weeks you get 1 session each week. So if the month is like 5 weeks, because sometimes a month is 5 weeks, and the last week or the first week had like 2 days, maybe it began on a Friday or it's ending on a Monday, and it's kind of like 5 weeks, but it's just 4 weeks, and that's 1 session each week. So you can book those services as well as birth chart readings and everything in my description box below. If you want a mini birth chart reading, you can also get that from me on Fiverr for $10. Is it $10 or $15? Yeah, it's just in the description box below. So this is the order of topics we're going to talk about. If you see me looking around, it's because I'm looking at my notes and my sticky notes over here. So we're going to talk about what Pluto is, we're going to talk about what Aqua is, Aquarius that is, then examples of the generations in Pluto, because when I say Pluto and Aquarius, that's a generation. There are different generations of Pluto in, like for instance, somebody's watching and you're a Pluto in Capricorn or a Pluto in Sagittarius generation, and those generations are going to be Pluto in Sagittarius, like I've mentioned, Pluto in Capricorn, the dates, the amount of time Pluto stays in a sign, like transit signs, transit dates, and then Pluto in the houses or as transits, which is the main topic of discussion here. So Pluto is shock, transformation, and rebirth. Pluto is many other things. Pluto is also generations. Pluto is many things. And then Aquarius is independence, humanitarian, innovative, and stubborn. Yes, Pluto rules many other things. Pluto means many other things. And Aquarius also rules and means many other things that I've not mentioned over here. But what I've mentioned here is what directed the readings I gave. So I want to talk about Aquarius being stubborn, because anybody who is into astrology like that would be like, what do you mean Aquarius means stubborn? Well, Aquarius is a fixed sign, and fixed signs have the tendency of sticking to a particular routine, sticking to a particular pattern. Like, I know how to do this, I'm gonna stick to that, I'm not moving, this is what I'm going to do, like being fixed. So now let's talk about the examples of generations. We'll start with Pluto in Sagittarius. Pluto in Sagittarius generation was between the years 1996 and 2009. The exact dates are here on the screen. So Pluto in Sagittarius generation means, as I've mentioned, Pluto is shock, rebirth, transformation. Now Sagittarius is philosophy, higher thinking, higher learning, and travel. So that means when you look at the shock and transformation aspect, it means the Pluto and Sagittarius generation are a group of people who are actually going to bring a lot of transformation and changes in how people view education and how people think. For example, look at how the mental health movement has been. Look at how Pluto and Sagittarius generation has been really into breaking things like generational curses, not standing up for abuse, not standing up for disrespect. Look at how education has actually changed because of Pluto and Sagittarius generation natives. So if you're born between 1996 and 2009 in this date, you've actually been making a lot of changes in the matters I've mentioned. And if you don't realize that you're making a lot of changes in those matters, you've realized that how, especially somebody who was born in 2009, like in Kenya in particular, somebody who was born in 2009 is somebody who is under CBC. The education system has changed. People who are born before 2009, aside from our parents and our grandparents and those people, did 844. And now the people who are born like 2009 over there, and let's say from 2000 actually, 2009 are people who are doing CBC, but from 2000, so the people who you'll find they graduated online in university, they joined university, and it's been online because of the pandemic. They've been homeschooled, they've been learning many things on social media. Go online and you'll see so many young people are further ahead educationally and in so many things as compared to the people who came before us. Like people who've been doing computer ever since. So like in 1996, maybe they were 18 or 20 or something, and they'd been into computer, they'd been into coding, animation, all of that. But then somebody who was born between 1996 and 2009, you find that these people seem to be way smarter. They do things more efficiently. They do so much in a short period of time. So that is Pluto and Sagittarius generation. And if you Google Pluto and Sagittarius generation, it says they are too smart for their own. Is it for their own good or for their own, like one of the two? And then we have Pluto in Capricorn, which was between the year, people who are born between the years 2009 and March 23rd, and March 22nd, 2023. So if somebody is being born today, tomorrow, yesterday, they're the Pluto in Capricorn generation. And as I've mentioned, Pluto is shock, transformation, and rebirth. Capricorn, on the other hand, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of discipline and personal responsibility. So Pluto in Capricorn generation and are people who only have one chance to do something. Like, in Eminem's song, you only got one shot, so do not miss the chance or lose the chance. And the reason I'm saying this is because Capricorn is the 10th zodiac sign, and the 10th zodiac sign is in the 10th house, and the 10th house is called the midheaven. And this is my definition of the midheaven, and from what I've observed about 10th house placements and 10th house transits, the midheaven can simply be summarized by what has been put together in heaven, no man can put asunder. Or no man can do asunder. Like in wedding society, what God has put together in heaven, no man can put apart, and all that. Yes, that is the 10th house, literally. So the decisions that 10th house natives make, the choices they make, whatever they do, they only have one shot. And you'll know what this decision is based on your chart, not like just anything like what you cook or what you eat or what you wear or where you bathe, where you live. Everybody's chart is unique, so you'll know from your chart what that one thing is or what those things are, because it's not just like one thing particular in your life, it's one thing in different aspects of your life. You mess that up, it's done. You cannot come back from the decision you've made. But not that it's a death sentence, it's just that you've already sealed your fate. However, you just get to accept it. You're like, okay, I sealed my fate in that, but doesn't mean that I have to live a miserable life or a difficult life. You can always find your way around things, because everybody deserves a do-over. Just because you broke your leg doesn't mean you can't walk. Just because you lost your voice doesn't mean you can't communicate. Just because you lost your eyesight doesn't mean you can't sense. That's what it means. So for the Pluto in Capricorn generation, as discipline, rewards, punishment, responsibility is what Capricorn is, and fate, as I've mentioned, because of the midheaven. So what you do ties you down. You can only get one shot, and I'll talk more about this when we're talking about Pluto in the 10th house. And then now when it comes to Pluto dates, Pluto stays in a sign for about 10 to 30 years. So Pluto stays in Capricorn, in Scorpio. It's sign of exaltation. Pluto stays in its sign of exaltation, Scorpio, for 12 years. Pluto stays in its sign of detriment, Taurus, for 30 years. And right now, Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. That is 2 decades. However, Pluto stayed in Capricorn for how many years? 2009 to 2023. That's 14 years. Like I've mentioned, between 10 and 30 years. And that's because of things like retrogrades and all of that. And this year, Pluto is going to be in Aquarius between the 23rd of March and 11th of June. And then it's going to go back to Capricorn before now going direct into Aquarius on January 21st, 2024. So you may feel the effects of Pluto in Aquarius now. You probably began feeling them already, or you'll feel them the moment Pluto goes into Aquarius on the 23rd of March, or you may start feeling them 3 months or 6 months later. Transits usually affect people 3 to 6 months prior or 3 to 6 months after. For instance, you can be having a perfection year. This is what a perfection year is. During a perfection year, maybe it's your 12th house perfection year, and for the first 6 months you were cool, nothing was happening, you weren't struggling or anything. But after that, things get tough. Or your 12th house perfection year is just cool and everything, but your first house perfection year, you start feeling the effects of your 12th house perfection year. So let's get into it and talk about Pluto in Aquarius in the houses, or as transits. You know what transit means, yes? When somebody says they're in transit, they're in transport. That means they're moving from one place to another. Like I'm in transit from Nairobi to Mombasa. That means I am in a bus in Nairobi or somewhere between Nairobi and Mombasa, and I am on my way. So when I say Pluto in the first house, it means Pluto was moving from the 12th house or somewhere and then moving to your first house. Yes, if Pluto is transiting your first house this time, it means Pluto has been in your 12th house for the past 20 years. Not the past 20 years, the past 14 years. Yeah, because that was Pluto in Capricorn. Okay, so let's go. Pluto in Aquarius in the first house. Pluto in Aquarius in the first house. The first house is about your sense of identity, yourself, how people perceive you. There is a way you see yourself and people see you. Like in astrology, the reason why I'm not a fan of people talking about sun sign astrology, people are like, oh, Geminis are like this, Leos are like this, Geminis are liars, they're demons, they're terrible, Leos are just dramatic and all that. Sun sign astrology is actually about how you see yourself. Like your sun sign is how you perceive yourself, but your first house is how other people perceive you. So for the past 20 years, Pluto was in your 12th house, now it's in your first house. Pluto in Aquarius moving to your first house. This is for Aquarius. If your Aquarius is your first, is in your first house, you're an Aquarius rising. For the past 20 years, people have known you, 14 years rather, people have known you a certain way. But right now, what's happening is you're changing. You're standing up for yourself. You're setting boundaries, not just with other people, but also with yourself. You're developing a very strong sense of self-discipline. And people can't stand. People are like, oh, so those are your true colors. People cannot stand that you're actually standing up for yourself. You love yourself. They do not see it as self-love or as you standing up for yourself, especially if you're in toxic relationships or other unhealthy relationships, whether it's with your parents, with your friends, with your partner, at your workplace. people realize that they can no longer tell you to do things, they can no longer push you around or anything, but they're not seeing it that way. They're seeing it as uko na kiburi siku hizi, you have a big head, you lack manners, you think you're all that, you think you're better than the rest. That's what people are seeing you. But in reality, you're going through a lot of self-development, and you're doing it for you, and you're actually going to elevate because of this. You're going to elevate in so many areas in your life, not just mentally, not just emotionally. You're going to elevate a lot, because when you respect yourself, the whole world respects you. Like in Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist, when you want something, the universe conspires to bring it to you somewhere. That I'm convinced Paulo Coelho is into astrology and things related to astrology. I'm actually convinced. If you read his books, if you look at his tweets, you will know that. Now let's go to Pluto and Aquarius in the second house. The second house is your house of resources and survival. By survival, I do not mean a drowning man clutches onto a straw. I mean, these are the basic things, the everyday things you use for your survival. And it's also the house of your face, by the way, the house of your face. So maybe it's, what do you do? Look at money. That's why it's survival. Money is a primary motivator to so many things. So you need money to buy food, you need money for transport and everything. So 2 things or 3 things are happening here. Your money, or whatever you use or depend on for survival, you see as your source of survival, is going to increase. 2, is going to decrease. Or 3, you are going to learn very, very important lessons about your money. Your money may be increasing because you're self-disciplined, or you're following your strategy and authority, like human design. If you don't know about human design, you can learn in my description box. I have information on that, free resources and paid resources. Paid resources if you want like a reading, but the free resources are in my description box. So your money is actually increasing, but this increase in money is not necessarily a good thing. It's not. It's also a good thing, and I will give examples. It's something called cultural shock. It's when, so I'll give an example of a child. A child has grown up in an urban area, has been going to private schools, has been having so many things. So their life has been full of convenience. This is, we're talking about Kenya now, before the post-election violence, before 2007-2008 post-election violence. Then when that happened, the parents felt like the safest place for my child, for my family, is to go back to the village. So the family relocates to the village where there is nothing. There is nothing there, like in the town where this child was raised, or the child is sent to a boarding school in a village somewhere. So they are in shock. They've never lived this kind of life. They've never bathed with cold water. They've never bathed with a bucket. They've never eaten boiled food, cold food. They've never woken up at 4 a.m. to go to class to study in the morning prep. They've never eaten food with vivos. Like, it's a total 180-degree shift, change about the life they're used to. Now, with money, the same thing can happen. Somebody has never touched a large amount of money, and a large amount of money is subjective. To you, a large amount of money could be 1 million Kenyan shillings or 100,000 Kenyan shillings, but to somebody it could just be 10,000 Kenyan shillings. In their family, the father is the one who handles the huge amounts of money, or if the mother is the patriarch of the family, she's, you get what I mean? I mean matriarch, but I mean patriarch. You get what I mean? But if they depend on the mother or the elder sister, it's just 500 is the most amount of money they've seen in the family, but they're never allowed to touch that. Maybe the most amount of money this child has ever been given to handle is 50 shillings to maybe go buy for the father some cheap liquor and cigarettes, or go and buy vegetables or food for the family. But any other large amount of money, it's the older adults or the older members of the family who get to handle that. So this child gets, say, a scholarship, a full ride scholarship to high school, and in this scholarship they're being given pocket money. They're being bought for leather shoes for the first time. They're being given pocket money. They're being given like 2,000 pocket money per term. For them, they don't know how to, they know that 50 bob is what they can survive with in a day for the whole family. So in the whole week, maybe it's 200 shillings for the whole week, but they're being given 2,000 Kenyan shillings for a term, and that's like from the day they join school until visiting days, and the sponsors will still send them money or something. So there's some shock that comes in, and the best example I can give on that type of shock is when in Kenya the government introduced government sponsorships for underprivileged young adults to go and study in private universities to get better education than their parents could afford, or they could probably ever get in their life. This is what I saw in university. I saw that the students who actually came from seriously underprivileged backgrounds, when they came to university, they lost it. They kind of lost it. It's not their fault. It's not that they are bad-mannered or anything. It's the cultural shock, the cultural shift. There are things they've never experienced, things they've never seen. Then they come to a private university in Nairobi, in a high-end suburban area, and everything goes out of the window. Everything. They are in shock. They are in total shock. If, like, to you, you may see a bed sitter that's like 8,000 saying Ronga, and you're like, I can't live there. That's not nice. But to this person, that 8,000 bed sitter, which they'll probably be sharing with 2 other people, so everybody can split the rent and the food and the utilities equally. To them, they feel like they are in heaven. They're living a very, very good life. Now, that shock is what sets them off. And it's very, very easy for other students who come from privileged backgrounds, and even international students from privileged backgrounds, even just international students generally, to prey on them, because these people are seriously naive. You have 2 18 or 19-year-olds. This 18 or 19-year-old who is from a seriously underprivileged background and is from the rural area is not the same as this 18-year-old who's grown up in the city. Yes, both of them are naive and everything, but the naivety of the one from the underprivileged background in the village is very, very different from the one who's been growing up in the city. So they get preyed on easily. This is where now they're dealing with so many things. Like this is where now they're like their self-esteem, their self-worth is in a frenzy. They're trying to find out who they are, and the environment is so different. You hear them trying to change how they speak, trying to change how they talk. They no longer feel proud of their families and backgrounds. They've been proud of their families and backgrounds all along, but they come to the city, they see a minister's child, they see a doctor's child, they see a neurosurgeon's child, they see a lawyer's child, and not just any doctor, minister, neurosurgeon, or child. These are people whose parents are well established, and they're like, wow. They saw that they had their smartphones, and they're like, yeah, I have a smartphone, I'm feeling cool. But they come to the city and they see somebody with an iPhone or a flagship Android phone, and they're like, you know, that cultural shock. So that's what happens in the second house, like with Pluto and Aquarius. Just because you're having an increase in money doesn't mean it's a good thing, not necessarily a good thing, because if you're not grounded, that increase in money can be an increase in Pluto-related problems to you. Then the decrease in money will also be because of you're getting your money, but you're not using your money properly. It's your money, yes, but you're not using it well. You're not saving it, you're not investing wisely, or you're not even thinking about yourself. You're like the parentified child, so you're taking care of your siblings, taking care of everyone. You have money and you forget about yourself. Like as black people, there's black tax. So instead of saying no to black tax, you're over there, you're giving out everything in you. And like Ed Sheeran said, I gave all my oxygen to people that can breathe. Don't do that. Do not give out your oxygen to people who can breathe. I'm not saying don't support your families and your loved ones and everything and all those people who are precious to you. I'm not saying kick them to the curb. I am saying do not give your oxygen to people who can breathe. You're earning 1,000 USD a month. Why are you sending everything home? Then all remaining with is your bills. You make sure you've paid your electricity, your rent, your necessary bills, and then you send everything back home. What about you? Don't you deserve to also enjoy the fruits of your labor? I don't like using the word labor though, but don't you enjoy to deserve your money? Then Pluto in Aquarius in the 3rd house. The third house is about communications, close friends, cousins, early childhood education, and neighborhoods. So in my post on Tumblr, I mentioned the people who you bring into your neighborhood can make you or break you. And I also talked about the credit score. In Kenya, the credit score talks are coming up. If you're watching and you're not from Kenya, especially if you're from America, you already know what credit score means. If you don't know about this and you're in Kenya, credit score is what determines what you get approved for. Like if your credit score is down, you can't get approved for housing. And because I'm talking about the third house and I'm talking about environment, I mean, if your credit score is down, you're going to really struggle getting approved for housing, getting approved for a car, getting approved for loans, like for business loans and funding, so many things. We're talking about neighborhood over here. So the neighborhood you move into, be very, very careful where you move into. Like when you look at America, I like telling people, Kenyans in particular, that if you want to know the direction Kenya is going to, look at South Africa and look at America. In America, there are black people who are financially stable and they want to move to better neighborhoods. So they move to a better neighborhood, but that neighborhood is predominantly white. And you find that some of the people over there, some of the white people who live over there, look at them funny and they keep reporting them for things they haven't done. Like I saw a video on TikTok about a lady a family who was given a notice that they'd be, the next time they're given a notice, they'd be evicted or something because they left their trash can out on a day when it's not garbage collection day. It's those gated communities and stuff. So turns out it was like the neighbors who did that. It was about racism anyway. So you go to a neighborhood and your neighbors don't like you. In Kenya, you go to a neighborhood that's not predominantly people who look like you and me, like you're black, and you move into a neighborhood that's predominantly other ethnicities, and they don't want you there because they just want people like them, and they have their reasons, not on racism or anything. They have their, some people do not want other people, out groups, that is people who are not like them, to come into their community because they are afraid of how they'll be treated because of their cultural beliefs and everything. They're afraid that somebody is going to start talking about them badly, somebody is going to record them and put them on the internet because they don't like their cultural practices and all that. You know how it goes, how people ridicule other people's religions and cultural practices. So you go there, and then there is always going to be that person who is backward and feels like black people are not deserving. You go into that neighborhood and they start reporting you for things you haven't done. You come and find your window, somebody threw a stone. You come and find somebody has egged your cars or tissue papered your cars with eggs and all that stuff. So be very, very careful about your neighborhood. Be very careful about who you bring into your neighborhood, because if your credit score goes down in this country, Kenya, just look at what happens in America, you will know. Then when we talk about the fourth house is about emotions and the mother. And I say emotions and the mother because the fourth house is ruled by the moon. And yeah, today is Monday, and Mondays are ruled by the moon. And all these names on the screen, that's like the etymology of the word Monday. All these names on the screen have the moon in them, like Landi, Luna, Wol Yoil. Wol is Korean for moon, so Yoil, day. Il is, yeah, Wol Yoil. Yeah, Yoil should be day. Wol Yoil. So the fourth house, emotions and mother. The fourth house is ruled by the moon, and the moon represents mother. The first house is not ruled by this. No, I won't say that. I won't talk about the first house. But the sun represents father, the moon represents mother. Loosely talking about the sun representing father, because you can look at another planet called Saturn, and Saturn also represents father. So in the fourth house, Pluto and Aquarius, this is going to bring up things like the mother wound. A lot of themes surrounding motherhood and mothers. Like, what's your relationship with your mother? What is your definition of a mother? Who are you? Are you a mother? Who are you as a mother? Who do you want to be as a mother? You may say, I do not want to be like my mother. it's so easy to say I do not want. It's not just about women. Like, even if you're a man, you're a he, him, they, whichever your pronoun is. This is not just about people who see themselves as feminine presenting, like the she's biologically females, or you're trans as a female. This is about all gender, the fourth house. So we're talking about motherhood and all that. Yes, you may say, I do not want to be like my mother. It's very easy to say, I do not want to be like my mother. But then you get to that point and you find it easier to be like your mother than to change to be a better person. So things around motherhood, your relationship with your mother, if you're an orphan, or if you're an orphan, like you've never had a mother, like your biological mother was never there, or you're adopted, or you've grown up in foster homes or in an orphanage, or your mother passed away along the way, your journey in life. So many things around being a mother are going to come up over here. It doesn't just mean like giving birth and things like that. So unhealed traumas are also going to come up here. Motherhood, history, ancestral history is also going to come up here, because the fourth house is about roots. What are your roots? Find, if you have the stomach, if you have the heart, if you're ready, find out about that. And the fifth house, I put an asterisk at the fifth house, because this, I feel like talking more about the fifth house, but I feel like I've talked more about us than I'll talk about the fifth house. The fifth house is about fun, creativity, and children. So Pluto in Aquarius, the message I had for Pluto in Aquarius, for the natives who are going to have this transit, is stop or I will stop. That was the message I got. Stop or I will stop. All of you know very well, very, very well what you need to stop. And I'm going to read, because somebody also asked me a question in my Tumblr, asked about it, and I responded loosely, but I needed something to respond to. And then I saw this tweet by Novi Brown, and it's on the screen. Let me read it for you. And Novi said, the people who will probably completely change how they approach relationships or marriage in the next 20 years will be Libra risings, Aquarius risings, Leo risings, Cancer risings, and Taurus risings. So Libra, Aquarius, Leo, Cancer, and Taurus risings. This is the transit you're going to have for Pluto in Aquarius. And then this is what I responded to, and I tagged the account that asked me the ask. So for Libra rising, that means you're an Aquarius, fifth house. You will learn about stopping what they will learn. Libra, Aquarius, fifth house, will learn about stopping what they've been doing, expecting different results. I also want to add something else here. You cannot heal in the environment that made you sick. You cannot do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. You cannot do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. If 1 + 1 is 2, it's going to stay 2. It will change to something else if you change what 1 means. If 1 + 1 is 2, it's always going to be 2. If 1 - 1 is 0, it's always going to be 0. You cannot do 1 + 1 and expect it to be 8 every single time. And yes, I know somebody is doing software engineering, somebody is doing coding, so somebody is doing those engineering, because I'm going to admit, yeah, 1 + 1 can be different things, I know, but we're not talking about that. Please don't get into your engineering brain over here. We are not talking about that. So stop or I will stop. Whatever you've thought about, or whoever you've thought about when I said stop, yeah, that is it. Stop or I will stop. Literally, stop or I will stop. Now let's go to the sixth house. The sixth house is about routines and pets and schedules and your gut. And you should know trauma is stored in the core. That is your stomach. When I talk about like your gut, your core, your gut, when I said your gut, I meant like your core, like your stomach. Trauma is stored in your stomach. Whatever you're doing over and over and over again, that's making you relive your traumas, find the strength to get out of that routine, get out of that schedule. If there are people who you've noticed every single time you're around them, every single time they come around, you notice that something unsettling happens to you, or you have some unsettling emotions, you just feel unsettled because of them, or when you go to certain places and it's so unsettling, you know what you need to do. You really know what you need to do. You're also going to be saying goodbye to pets, and I saw a tweet that was talking about it's so cute to see your pet develop a routine of its own, and it's so interesting that that's so 6th house, because the 6th house is about pets and it's about routines, and this is the tweet on the screen. So your traumas, just like I mentioned, the 4th house is about the mother wound and all of that. The 6th house, whatever you're doing over and over and over again, and it's bringing you problems, it's giving you mental health problems, check that out. And something that's going to really stand out for you this time round is you're going to have problems with your stomach. It's not a given that you will have, but you will realize because of these things, it's like psychosomatic at this point, and not just psychosomatic, it could also be physiological given what you're eating. So be very careful what you're eating, by the way, especially if you're above 30 now. But if you're 30 and above, this is some human design advice. If you realize a particular food is not working for you, no matter how people say it's healthy, it's a superfood, just leave that food alone. Leave it. If that food is affecting you in any way, no matter how people say it's healthy, leave that food alone. Leave it. Get an alternative. Find out how you feel eating in certain places. How do you feel when you eat when you're alone, when it's quiet? How do you feel eating near a source of water? How do you feel eating in like restaurants so that there's activity and all of that? How do you feel eating when you have a conversation? When you find out how you feel in a positive way, eating in different environments, eating in different situations, stick to that. Like maybe you like going to restaurants that are at the top floor. For instance, you went to Inti and you sat by the window and you loved eating up there. Or you just went to a restaurant that are like on the ground floor, like Nevada Fish and Chips, and you're like, yeah, I like eating down here. Maybe you went upstairs in Nevada Fish and Chips. Do they have an upstairs? And you're like, yeah, I like eating from up here. I'm not saying people who are younger than 30 should not do this. It's good practice. But especially people who are 30 and above, your environment when you're eating will be a game changer in so many aspects of your life. Like when I mentioned about the 2nd house, I think it was the 2nd house when I said if you're following your strategy and authority, your money is coming in and things are working out for you so well. That's the same thing with the 6th house and the environment you're eating in. If you're following your strategy and authority, it's gonna help you. Let's go to the 7th house. Pluto in Aquarius transit in the 7th house is about lessons in relationships. Look at the people who came before you. Your parents, your older relatives, your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, your age mates, your peers, even people who are younger than you. This is especially for reflectors and profile line 1-3. 1-3 and I think profile line 1-3 and triples. Profile line 1-3, triple split definition, triple split. As long as you're any split definition, triple split or split definition, whichever you are, this is very important. Look at the relationships around you, the relationships you've heard of, the relationships you've seen. What can you learn from them? Because for these next 20 years, are you going to make the same decisions those people made? Learn from the decisions you've seen in different people's relationships. That's going to really help you. So when I said reflectors and profile line 1-3 and triple split and split definition, that's human design. You're going to learn from the relationships of the people before you, after you, not like after you when you become an answer or something, like somebody who is younger than you, people who are older than you. the decisions they've made in their relationships. Do you want to make the same decisions? It's like breaking the cycle. Do not think that, don't make spiteful decisions, by the way. Like, say you're tribe X and your parents are tribalists, so they do not like tribe Y, and then you decide, I am going to be in a relationship with tribe Y and get married and have children to spite my parents. Do that and you will suffer. You will suffer. Do not make decisions to spite anyone. Do not get into a relationship to spite anyone. Don't do that. Don't do that. Or you've seen your parents' relationship are really, really good, and you're like, I'm gonna go against all odds. I'm going to do things the way I want to do them. I am better than the rest and all that. There are good things you can learn from people's relationships, and it's good to emulate those beautiful relationships, beautiful and healthy, because not all that glitters is gold. You'll see a beautiful relationship, but that's not it. That's just what you're seeing. People will show you what they want to show you. They will not show you what you should be seeing. They'll show you what they want to show you. And sometimes we see what we want to see, not what is actually being shown to us. So also, don't idolize celebrities' relationship. Over here now about celebrities' relationship, I find it important to mention that even though the 7th house is not the house of prayer, but this is still about relationships, people's spiritual relationships. Those celebrities are not praying to the same God as you. Stop saying, God of so and so, locate me. Stop saying that. That celebrity's God might be Mars, Aries, the god of war. Do you know that those gods will actually locate you? Provided a god owes you no loyalty, they will locate you and they will use you as a toy. Imagine being located by the god of war. Now your life is a constant battle. And then you'll be like, why is my life like this? Why is my life like that? It's because you said, God of so and so, locate me. There is a reason why in Christianity, I'll give Christianity as an example. There's a reason why in Christianity, the founders of the different sects of Christianity end their prayers with, in Jesus' name, amen, or in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or in saying the grace, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the Lamb, is it Lamb of God or love of God? And the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. There is a reason they put those exact names, because they are very aware. Even people say astrology shouldn't get into it or anything. If you read the Bible, if you look at Christianity and everything, you will see that literally everything talks against astrology is like, because they know that if you end your prayers open-ended, that prayer could go to Mars. That prayer could go to who? Could go to Saturn. That prayer could go to Pluto, the god of destruction. Mars is the god of war. Pluto is the god of destruction. Yeah, I believe Pluto is the god of destruction. So stop asking celebrities for which prayers they said. They're not saying the same prayers as you. They will say, they will write it out, you will read it, and then your life starts falling apart in shambles and everything. Say your own prayers and make sure you attach which god you are praying to. Okay, then the 8th house, Pluto in Aquarius transiting the 8th house. Now, this is very, very powerful because, as I mentioned in the beginning, Pluto's ruling sign is Scorpio. When I mentioned that Pluto takes 12 years in Scorpio, because that's the sign it's exalted in. So Pluto rules Scorpio and Pluto is exalted in Scorpio. And the 8th house is ruled by Pluto and Scorpio. So the 8th house is about death, sex, other people's money, taxes. And when I say all of this, it doesn't mean like it's just doom and everything. It's also the house of inheritance, because other people's money. Yes, there is danger. It's also about secrets and hidden enemies. Yes, there's danger in the 8th house when it comes to other people's money and taxes and all that, because it means if you're not living well, if you're not being responsible with other people's money, it's going to come for you, like being in debt. Like, we go back to the credit score. I mentioned credit score in the 3rd house. So it goes back to credit score. You're in debt. You're not paying taxes, tax evasion. You're not handling people's money well. If you're an accountant especially, you're not handling people's money well. If you are a banker, if you are working where you're handling people's money, if you work in loans. This is not exclusively for those people, but just to give you more insight what this is about. If you're not handling people's resources well, the second house is about your money and your resources. The second house is directly opposite to the 8th house. The second house is in opposition to the 8th house. Opposition is an aspect in astrology. So if you're not handling other people's money well, it's going to come back for you badly. Very, very badly. So you are going to be in serious trouble because of people's money. But on the bright side of the 8th house, other people's money, like I mentioned, inheritance. This means people just give you money. You keep getting money from people, and not the sense of only inheritance or scamming. Don't scam. Or it could also be winning the lotto, or the government giving you back money. Like you didn't know the government owes you money. For instance, I saw there's a lady who was owed money by the government. She was a contractor, social contractor, forgotten. And she'd been battling depression, I think, since 2001, and the neighbors stopped her from committing suicide, but she's passed away now, and the government still did not pay her that money. I could say that she is bound to get back all of that money. The 8th house, I also feel like, is about posthumous fame. Posthumous fame means people who, after they pass away, they get famous. Some people have that placement in their chart, like Van Gogh and somebody else, I've forgotten. I'm going to put them on the screen. People who gained fame after passing away. That's the 8th house. So that there's a chance that's what's going to happen for her. She's going to get her money back and everything, but she's gone. And then you also see this when there are people, this doesn't happen to everyone, but you keep hearing you will be sick and you'll need money and nobody will support you or anything. But when you pass away, people will raise money that surpasses the bills you needed to be paid to have saved your life. Those people, you'll find that they have 8th house placement, strong 8th house placement, so they have that posthumous fame thing in their birth chart. So in as much as the 8th house is about other people's money, it's about debt and all of that, you're bound to get money in. But be very, very careful, because the same way the second house, you getting your money, your increase in money, can make you lose your mind because of cultural shock. It's the same way. It's the same that can happen to you in the 8th house. And when I talked about death in the 8th house, this is what I channeled. Make your end of life arrangements. Have a will, and this is not for you because you're about to die or anything. Like I mentioned, the 8th house is also the house of secrets and hidden enemies. Making your will and end of life arrangements, end of life plans, does not mean that as you're making that, you make it public for everyone to know. As you make it in your will, you're going to list people, and you've already listed them and everything. You've made your will, you've made your end of life plans and everything. But as time goes on, you get to learn who people really are, and you're like, I actually put this person in my will, but I feel like if I actually died and this person was in my will, I would not rest in peace. I would not, because you're actually seeing them for who they are, and it gives you time to revise your will and everything. And it's very, very important to have your end of life plans in order. Don't think that, oh, when I pass away, my money will take care of everything. Put things in order so that when you pass away, people are not fighting over your body. You don't stay in the mortuary for weeks, months, years. People are not stealing your property. You have different families, and then everybody is saying, I'm the real family. People are fighting over your body. People are fighting over your property. Your wife and kids, or your husband and kids, or your siblings, your children, whoever you've left behind is suffering because other people have taken every single piece of your property away from you. Other people have come to claim your property because of debt and things like that. Make sure you have your end of life arrangement in order. And this is not just about people who will be having this trans. This is for everyone. That's literally general knowledge. Okay, it's not general. I don't think everybody knows that. I know that because I am a psychologist. That's how I know that. Then when we go to the 9th house, the 9th house, remember in the beginning when I said that Sagittarius in Pluto about higher thinking, higher learning, philosophy, and travel. Sagittarius rules the 9th house. Sagittarius is at home in the 9th house. Sagittarius is the 9th sign. The 9th house is about, my mind has gone blank a little bit, so I'm going to have to go back and check my notes. Yeah, I've remembered. Even before reading, I've remembered what I saw here in the 9th house. What shocking thing have you discovered? Do you want to share it, or do you want to take it to your grave? And if you were to travel anywhere, why is it space? And when I said space, I did not mean like literally going to Mars or anything. I mean, why do you want to go so far away? So far away. And there is a concept in psychology about that. It's about putting geographical distance between you and your family of origin. I'm going to link an article in the description box below because I don't have time to write it on my own, summarize it and make a post on it. But if I find the time to do that before uploading this video, I'll link it. But it's in the description box below, and this is the title. Why do you want to go far away? Why do you want to put that distance? Will you be happy? Will you be happy putting that distance? And even this is about the 9th house, I want to mention something about the 12th house because it relates to this reading I'm giving. 12th houses, people who have planets, personal planets. By personal planets, it means in their birth chart, maybe they are an Aries rising. That means in the 12th house they have Pisces, like somebody who was born today at X time, because now the sun, the moon, and Venus are in Pisces, so maybe they're an Aries rising, so they have Pisces in their 12th house, and those are 3 planets. People who tend to have personal planets in their 12th house are people who are happier far away from home. They are happier, they are at peace. The type of people who are happier and at peace, loving their family from a distance. So even now, when you talk about this reading for people who are going to have Pluto in Aquarius in their 9th house, would going away give you space? And the 9th house isn't about depression, but studies have linked depression to people who are intelligent. So you may be so smart, you feel like the only way you can put space between you and X, whatever X is death, because they're depressed. I'm not telling anyone to do that. I'm not telling anyone to go and walk the plank or anything. But however you choose to put space, is that going to make you happy? What is it you want to put space between yourself and? What do you want to take a lot of distance from? And this is something I like asking my clients presenting with depression and stress and burnout and related conditions. I like asking, think about the things that you feel have put you in this situation. If you remove them, would you be in this situation? And they usually say no. They usually say no. Like, if the reason you feel this way is because of your parents, if you just decided to blank out your parents, not suppress, like to blank out your parents, or if you had different people as your parents, do you think you'll be in this situation? And they're like, no, I wouldn't be in this situation. And because we're talking about the 9th house and higher learning and everything, I recommend reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. If you can get the book, go ahead and get it. And if you're hearing it's a sign. If you're listening to this and you're hearing this, it's a sign that you should actually read that book. So whatever you want to put space between yourself and, will you be happy? Will you be satisfied? Will you be at peace? Do you feel like that's exactly what you want, what you need? And will you come back, or is this a permanent decision? In the beginning, I talked about Pluto in Capricorn, the Pluto in Capricorn generation, and I mentioned that I'll talk more about that. We're talking about the 10th house, because Capricorn, as I mentioned, is the 10th sign, and the 10th house is called the midheaven, and Capricorn is in the 10th house. And I mentioned that the best definition of the 10th house is what has been put together in heaven, no man can put asunder. So I'm going to read what I wrote on the 10th house. And also the 10th house is also about career. So your career will be your success or your downfall. Your career will be your success or make you start from zero. This is because the world is changing. Look at how the world has changed. It's been changing gradually behind the scenes, but then this change suddenly moved so fast the moment the pandemic began. And we'll go back to the computer age. When computers were being introduced, so many people were opposed to using computers because they're talking about, oh, that's the sign of the end time, this is the devil, or computers are going to steal our work and everything. And what happened? Those who refused to learn about computers were replaced by those who learned about computers. In the present days, those who are refusing to learn about AI are going to be replaced by those who learn about AI. AI is not going to replace you or anything. The people who are learning about AI are the ones who are going to replace you, who is resistant to learning about AI. But this is not only about learning about AI or computers or anything. This is also about personal development. Ever since the pandemic began, what lessons have you learned? Ever since the year began, what lessons have you learned? Personal development, your environment, everything. What have you even learned in your career? What have you learned about yourself? Are you resistant to change? Because if you're resistant to change, remember this transit is for 20 good years. If you're resistant to change over and over and over and over and over again, those are 20 years you're going to waste. Let's say you're 20 years old now. When you're 40, even though people say, oh, you can be down at 20 and then get your breakthrough at 40. I personally don't like that analogy or whatever, because I'm like, okay, so you're telling me to just be comfortable in all this discomfort between 20 and 40 because I'll get my breakthrough at 40. Between 20 and 40, you've been struggling, you've developed depression, PTSD, many things. Then you get a breakthrough at 40. Why should you be comfortable struggling for 20 years, hoping that when I'm 40, I will succeed? Why can't you have a good life in your 20s? Why can't you have a good life now, before you turn 40, before you turn 50, before you turn 60? Why should you only celebrate your life when you're nearing end of life? Why? Did you come here to surf? No. There's something else I mentioned about doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Which house did I mention that? I think it was in the 6th house. That also kind of applies here. That kind of applies here in the 10th house. Now let me just add this about the 10th house. This particular transit has an unbreakable seal. Like I mentioned, what has been put together in heaven, no man can put asunder. So this particular transit has an unbreakable seal. There is no coming back from the choice you make. And I want to add something here about the 10th house. I have a post talking about astrology and birth order. It should be on my LinkedIn, on my astrology LinkedIn and on my Tumblr, and I'm going to link both of them in the description box below. So go and read about 10th house and the siblings. It will help you over here. The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. Aquarius is at home in the 11th house, and this is what the 11th house is about. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Recently, and I don't think these are just recent developments, I feel like these are things that have been happening ever since the beginning of time, but because we have been on the internet ever since the pandemic began till the people have been on their screens for so long, these issues have become really prevalent. They've been put out there. So the 11th house, I've said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So when I was writing about the 11th house, the message here was, we've seen so many instances of friends not being friends. You think somebody is your friend, they are not. Like in Swahili we say things like, there's this methali, usually even on lesos. I know that because I grew up in Mombasa and I see those lesos. Kikulacho kinguoni mwako, which means what's eating you is at the hem of your cloth. That's the closest English translation. And then there's this meme that had been going rounds, and we usually say it, like when we talk about Nairobi, we call Nairobi one big bedroom. So we say, unadhani mtu ni chali yako, or unadhani mtu ni demi yako, kumbe unadhani. The closest English translation will be, you think you know somebody. And which song is that goes, you think you know somebody. Or another translation, word for word translation, is you think somebody is your girlfriend or boyfriend, turns out you just think. So your network will be the ones who either stand by you or against you. This year we have had so many cases of friends transmuting their jealousy into acts of wickedness. It gets worse, so choose your circle wisely. Your 11th house is your community, and you do not want to be where there are attacks from neighboring communities. Neither do you want to be sleeping with the enemy. Apply discernment. And then, because of Pluto and Aquarius in the 11th house, people who have Aquarius in the 11th house, something about Aquarius natives. Aquarius and Leo are sister signs. They are on opposite sides of the wheels. While people look at Leo placements like dramatic and drama queens and all that, Aquarius are the opposite. They like hiding behind the scenes. They don't speak up for themselves. Aquarius placements are actually prophetic in nature. They are always ahead of the game, but they never stand up for themselves. An Aquarius could have invented something. And because this Aquarius doesn't stand up for themselves, doesn't speak up for themselves or anything, somebody comes and claims it's theirs and steals everything from the Aquarius. Aquarius placements need to learn to stand on top of the mountain and make it known what is theirs, what they did, what rightfully belongs to them. There's a Bible story about somebody who sold their rights. It's giving Aquarius, somebody who sold their rights for a bowl of soup. It's giving Aquarius. 12th house. Anytime I hear about 12th house transits, I just shudder, because I know very well how 12th house transits are. 12th house perfection years, solar returns that are focused on the 12th house, like say let's say your 12th house sign in your natal chart is your ascendant in your solar return chart, or you have so many planets in your 12th house in your solar return chart, or it's your 12th house perfection year. I know how hard it is, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard, because as long as you know human design, you practice, you follow your strategy and authority, it's not going to be hard. In the 12th house, this transit will be hard, especially for young people from age 19. Yes, especially for young people from age 19, because anybody who is 19 and younger has not had a 12th house perfect. Okay, they've had for like when they were 11, but that's the only one they can barely remember that, unless it was a seriously traumatic experience. But you barely remember, and even if you remember, there's a chance that you suppress it and you're like, it's whatever, it was in the past. But below 19, it's going to be a struggle, especially for young people from age 19 and the very old because you're too old to start dealing with these things again. You are too old. Have you seen that old person who is going through tribulation after tribulation after tribulation, and you're like, whoa, yeah, the poor man. They're either going through their return or a Saturn return, like their second Saturn return. Yeah, because Saturn returns are like every 30 years. So maybe somebody is 60 plus and they are going through so much. So maybe this person is going through their Saturn return, and at that same time it's like a 12th house transit. At the same time, that 12th house is like the 12th house perfection year. They are too old to be dealing with those things. You realize you have been living a lie. It feels like every day is a new day on the battlefield, which brings me back to the 7th house when I said your favorite celebrities don't pray to the same God as you. So stop saying God of so and so locate me, because if you go, the 12th house God is Neptune. If Neptune locates you, Neptune and Jupiter really, if Neptune or Jupiter locate you, Neptune is about mental health problems and addictions. Jupiter is literally the Tower card, literally. So if those gods locate you, you say God of so and so locate me, and they locate you, stop asking celebrities for their prayers, and stop asking celebrities, gods, or people on the internet, stop asking their gods to locate you. Going to different churches, mental health facilities to find answers and help. You're going everywhere. Like this song, nimetafuta milima mabonde na sikupata mwingine, but it's not this. You don't get the sikupata mwingine, you don't get the mwingine, by the way, and that translation is, I have searched the valleys, milima, valleys, mabonde, hills, Mabonde is hills, milima is Mabonde is valleys. So I have searched the valleys, I have searched the hills and the valleys, and I have not found another one. Only that you don't even, that one in the song, you don't even find that one. You're searching everywhere, up and down. What was the song? Nimezunguka kote kote, nimetafuta kote kote. That song, you're going around looking for answers, looking for peace, everything, but you're not finding anything. You're searching, you're not finding anything. So I'm saying you've been searching and searching everywhere, hills, valleys, you've gone round and round, you've turned stones, everything. Like you, who is this guy who is pushing a rock up a hill but never gets to the hill? Sisyphus. You're literally like Sisyphus. You never make it. You're just there. You keep going up, down, your boulder, up, down, you've searched and you're not finding anything. 20 years is a very, very long time to be disturbed. It's a very long time to disturb. Sitting with yourself, feeling your feelings, accepting whatever is going on, forgiving yourself, that will help you get grounded, and anything that tries to shake you won't succeed. You may get tattoos, shave your hair, dye your hair. And I want to mention something. Because I follow the world's #1 decoder, or she says, or her profile is world's best decoder, world's best or world's first decoder, Indy Einstein. And she'd been talking about tattoos this previous week, or even more than that. And she mentioned that when, I'm just saying this loosely, I don't remember the exact word, but it was loosely, the moment you get a tattoo, things start purging. Things just start falling apart. But when things are falling apart, it doesn't mean it's bad. Things fall apart for better things to come up. So when things are falling apart, stop struggling to pick them up. You're going to hurt your fingers. That's why when a glass falls or a plate falls and it breaks, you don't pick it with your fingers, you sweep it away. You do not pick it up. Because when you pick it up, what happens? You get cut, right? You get hurt. And it stings so much, even though it's not a deep cut, even though it's not a deep wound. It stings so much. So as I was saying, you don't pick a plate when it falls. And that tiny piece of glass, it cuts you, and it's so painful. It's painful, like you would get hurt, you'd get an injury somewhere, and you're like, hey, this injury is bad. But the amount of pain from that bad injury is not the same as this tiny one. This tiny one is so painful. Same way when a paper cuts you, it is so painful, and you're like, what? Why is it so painful? Obviously, you can find out why it's so painful. Like, there's a post I saw on Tumblr about why paper cuts are so painful. If I find it, it's on the screen. Yes, Indy said that the moment you get tattoos, like, things start falling apart. And that's why she also mentioned, that's why whenever people get tattoos of matching tattoos, their relationship falls apart. Or somebody goes and gets a tattoo of their boyfriend or girlfriend, their relationship falls apart. And people mentioned that the moment they got butterfly tattoos, every single thing in their life, not like particular things, every single thing in their life fell apart. Like, look at the etymology of butterfly and papillon. Who was papillon? And find out the meaning of butterflies, behind butterflies. So if you feel like you want your life to change, you want all the old structures to fall apart and good things to happen, get a butterfly tattoo. Or I'm not sure how well butterfly jewelry works. I got butterfly jewelry because I was drawn to butterflies, and I was like, yeah, that's gonna be a good thing. It wasn't a good time. I had a hard time. But you think I'll throw away my butterfly jewelry? I will not. But it wasn't as hard as the guys who got like the tattoos and all of that. And as I mentioned, also you may shave your hair, dye your hair. Some of you may end up in prison because you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's the same thing with third house. The people who you bring into your environment, be very, very careful. So make sure you're following your gut feeling, and your gut feeling is like your inner voice, your higher voice telling you, if you feel no about that place, or you feel no about leaving the house, like, don't go. Or you walk out of the house and you suddenly trip, you stumble, like you trip, you stumble, go back in. you had tied your laces, but suddenly you're out and you're like, I've just taken like 3 steps and my laces are undone, and you keep doing your laces, go back indoors. Just go back indoors. Or you plan on going somewhere and everything is working against you that day, cancel those plans. Others may end up in prison because they gave up and chose to become felons, because to them there is no point struggling to live a good life only to keep suffering. As I mentioned, whenever I hear 12th house transits, I just shudder because I know how hard it is. 12th house perfection years are so hard, you want to give up. But as I've mentioned, they don't have to be hard. Get into human design, learn your strategy and authority. Your 12th house perfection year, 12th house transits do not have to be hard. This transit is like having a 12th house perfection year, but harder, and for 20 years. So if you've ever had a 12th house perfection year, if you've ever had a solar return, your solar return chart was dominantly in your planets were dominantly in your 12th house, the way it was difficult, especially if you didn't know about human design or anything. And not everyone who knows about human design is actually living according to the strategy and authority. Some people, it's just been natural to them, and they've grown up with adults who are parents who are emotionally available. They've had secure environments and all, so they've always felt secure in themselves, to listen to themselves, to listen to their gut feeling and everything. So without knowing, they've been following their strategy and authority. They've been listening to their instinct, and your instinct is like a muscle. The more you listen to your instinct, the more you're exercising that muscle, the stronger it becomes. So 12th house transits, 12th house perfection years are actually really hard. But now Pluto in Aquarius in the 12th house is really hard, and for 20 years. And I'll give you an example. People who've had Pluto in Capricorn in the 12th house, check your chart. If you had Pluto in Capricorn in your 12th house, if you're an Aquarius rising, how have the past 14 years been for you? How have they been? Like, now the good thing is, now with this new transit, your life is getting better. Those who've had Pluto in Capricorn in the 12th house for the past 14 years, your life is getting better. So Pluto in Aquarius, the 12th house, these people who are going to have this transit in their 12th house, it's going to be 20 years. And as I've mentioned, 20 years is such a long time to be disturbed. Start sitting with yourself, accept your feelings, accept your emotions. Negative emotions are important, especially people who are going to have this transit. Go listen to my podcast episode, The Shape of Emotions, where I talk about negative emotions. Negative emotions are important. What you do with those emotions is what determines whether you've crossed the line or not. Feeling your negative emotions isn't bad. The actions you attach to those emotions are what draw the boundary between good and bad. And then, but just like how many people successfully completed a 12th house perfection year, that's age 23, age 11, age 23, keep adding 12 to 23, that's going to be 35 over and over and over again. You can do it. The lessons you learned at 11, 23, 34, 45 and so on will help you. For the very old people, it's the day of judgment for those who did not successfully go through the psychosocial studies that Erik Erikson proposed. They are at stage 8, integrity versus despair. There is a psychologist, he's not alive anymore. I believe he's not alive. The psychologist called Erik Erikson, and he proposed 8 stages of psychosocial development, and they're like a versus stage. It like over here in the 8th stage, it's integrity versus despair. So integrity means when you look back at your life, do you feel like you've left a legacy? Do you feel like you've actually done something to be proud of? Are you happy? Because you'll find yourself comparing yourself to your peers, or people, even your peers, whether you know them or not, your age, those people who are around your age. Despair is where you realize, I really messed up. Like those people who are on their deathbed, that's when they change, they realize all the terrible things they did. Yeah, that's a glimpse of what integrity versus despair. I mean, I think that's age 64. That's like age 64, integrity versus despair. If it's not, I'm going to put it on the screen and correct all these things. So that's that. You can book a reading from me in my description box below. You can book a birth chart reading, mini, basic or extended. I have a website that has that. You can book therapy with me. It's 45 minutes to 1 hour. And it's virtual. and you're not obligated to turn on your camera. You can turn on your camera if you want to, but you aren't obligated to turn on your camera. Virtual sessions with me. You can book a human design reading with me on Fiverr. You can book if my rates for my website for the birth chart reading are too high for you, like the mini birth chart reading, which is $65 on my website, you can book a mini birth chart reading on Fiverr. They're different. The ones I offer on Fiverr and the ones I offer on my website are different. Those two mini birth chart readings are different. You can book one with me on Fiverr. You can book human design readings. I've put all the links in my description box below. You can get free resources if you can't afford to pay for my services. Don't feel bad if you can't afford to pay for my services. Don't feel bad. One day you'll be able to support an astrologer by paying for the services, whether it's me or somebody else. I'm thinking about my Patreon. I have a Patreon, yes. I feel like maybe if I had an audience on my Patreon, then I would be very active on there. I have stuff to share, but I'm really not keen on Patreon. I'm waiting to respond. Once I wait to respond and I also get the right invitations, I will actually now get on my Patreon. I hope this video has helped you. If you want a post on Venus in Pisces, like a video, I will do that. There's another reading I thought about doing post. Writing them I will write, but if you want videos of that, like Venus in Pisces, there's something else I wanted to do. If you want me to do videos for the perfection years, I'll try and do. I'm not feeling excited about doing perfection year readings. Venus in Pisces I can do. I know I'm going to write I'm going to write post on my Tumblr and post on my astrology LinkedIn. What's the other? There's something else I wanted to do. Yes, I think I'll also do the generations. I might write articles on Pluto in Sagittarius generation and Pluto in Capricorn generation. So yeah, that's it. I hope this video has helped you. It's long for a reason. I'm thinking about editing it, how I'm going to edit it, because I do not want to take anything out, because if I take anything out, it reduces the quality of the reading, the message, and I want you guys to get the message exactly as it is. Not that I'm lazy in editing. I love editing. I really love. But because this is an energetic reading, editing energetic readings makes me feel some type of way. It really makes me feel some type of way. I'm really not keen in editing energetic readings. But good thing is that we have chapters, so it's not like you have to watch the whole video. You can watch chapters and watch. If you watch the whole video, good for you. That's really good, because most of the information in this video, yes, each person has the information tailored for them specifically, but some of the information I've mentioned in this video is general. So if you've watched the whole video, thank you very much. Like, comment, share, and only subscribe if you're going to be an active community. Please do not subscribe if you're going to be a dormant member of my community. Subscribe if you actually like my content and you want to engage with my content. If you want to watch my past videos, which really weren't energetic readings or anything, they were just me showcasing my life, things I want to share about. So I guess I'll see you next time. You can ask me questions in the description box. If there's something you want me to talk about, you can also ask me. But I don't mean post your whole chart for me to give you a reading on something, but feel free to ask me questions here. Like, comment, share your thoughts. And then what's the other thing? My Tumblr asks are open, so you can go ask me questions over there. You can go engage in my posts on Tumblr if it's something you don't quite understand. Tumblr.